Hi everybody, good afternoon. I'm sorry that yesterday's video was so long. It did carry on quite a ways, but I want to come on today and just finish up the little book from yesterday. As you know, I'm working on an entire month of using what I've got, so this is going to finish that up. I finished up the one book so that I was sure I knew what I wanted to do and won't have to bore you with it. So this is the little book. We're going to decorate its cover. We're going to put on the closure. It's elastic and it just comes around and holds on to everything. We're going to put ties on our little envelopes so that they can all be closed up. And then I may cut some little cards to go in here, but I think this is the way it's going to go. The first thing I want to do is I want to get the little design thing for the front cover sorted out because it needs to sit for a little bit before we put it on the cover. So again, we're using what we got, and I needed to separate this. This is just artist trading coin that I had made in another video and at another time, and I needed it to separate from the cover just a little bit, so I wanted a black circle to go under it, but I didn't have any black circles cut, and I had these white circles cut. So all I did was use a Sharpie marker, and this is a Sharpie paint marker, and I just painted around the edge of the circle so that I had black showing, and that meant that I used something that I already had cut. I didn't cut up another piece of cardstock. Using up what I've got. And all I did was just color the edge of it. Now I'm going to set that aside for a second, let it get, oops, see, I missed a little spot right there, so you'll want to get that before we go on. I'm going to let it get dry. And then I wanted to put some fiber around so that it sticks out from underneath the coin a little bit, just to give it a little bit more dimension. And what I did was I'm using tacky glue. This is one of those things where you really need it to stay attached to your front cover, so we're going to use something that we know is definitely going to keep it in place. So I'm using plenty of glue in the middle, a little bit less out towards the edge. And then I just laid this is eyelash yarn, and I just wanted it to have little fluffies sticking out a little bit. I noticed that this one over here doesn't have much sticking out, so sometimes you have to manipulate it a little bit. Come on now. Of course, my fingers are sticky now. And then we're just going to flip it over and put it on top of our little now black edged circle. And you see the little fibers just stick out. So what I need to do though is I need to put it under some weight so that it flattens it out good. And so while we go on to the next steps, I'm going to put it over here under something. Okay, so then we need to put these little tie buttons in on our envelopes so that we can latch them down. And to do that, I'm going to use some, now I know I had them, there we go. Some little circles that are punched out of our blue cardstock that we used for the spine. And these are just little 1/2-inch circles that I punched out with the paper punch. Then I have a little tiny 1/8-inch punch, but anything that'll put a little hole in this, oh, I did have two. You just want to put a little hole in there. And again, I'm using something I already had. These have been around for a long time. This is a box of brads. They're brass paper fasteners with a round head is what they're called. But what they are is brads, and these are just standard office brads. We've had them forever. And I'm going to use them to attach my little paper circles to the envelopes. And I just put those through there, and that way they're ready to go when I get the next step ready. So I'm just going to take my little tiny hole punch. Now if you don't have a little tiny hole punch, you can use your little punch tool or an ice pick or anything, but it helps if you get a hole started in this paper. And we're going to push this on into there and open it up. Like so. And I just went ahead and did all of the flaps first. Now, honestly, it might have been easier had I attached all of these before I put the envelopes in the book, but I didn't decide that's what I wanted to do until I got it finished. So we have those attached now, and I used just a little piece of white cardstock because what I need to do is I need to cover up this brad piece right here. Now, I suppose you don't have to do that, but I wanted to. And again, I'm using tacky glue on this. And I just flip the envelope up and put this little piece of cardstock on there and stick it down. Now, I had a little trouble with that staying, so I used my little clips that I have. Paper clip would do. Okay, and I just left it sit there for a second, and while I'm showing you that, we have to put a second little paper fastener down here in our envelope. And they're not that difficult, but I couldn't use the paper punch due to the fact that it's too far down. So I'd simply use my little punch tool, and I put my hand inside of it, of the envelope, and I very carefully punched a hole and inserted one of my brads. Now when you insert the brad, make sure that you kind of keep it up and down so that when you open it inside the envelope, that it sits kind of flat and not bothering the things that you're going to slide into there. Now I've just got my hand inside that envelope, and now I've pinched the brads open, and there's my little piece. And I can just turn this one, and we'll just get this one ready. And you want to be careful, you don't want to stick yourself or go through to the other side. You just kind of have to feel for those little metal parts to open the brad. Okay, then those are done like that. So then we're going to check on this and see, but I think it's probably just fine. It is. Yeah. And now we need to put our little string on there so that we can tie our envelopes closed. These things are... And I had this, it's some, actually I think it's upholstery, decorative upholstery thread of some sort. Something I've had a long time. Used to do, make bead sets up with it. So it's just something I had, and that's what we're supposed to be doing. Now I just put this thread, hope you can see that, around that brad underneath the paper. I sort of find the middle of the thread of the cord, and I just simply tie a little overhand thing and slide it up under there. I don't worry about trying to tie a big knot or anything. I just tie it once, and then I put little knots in the ends of my cord. So that I can close my envelope. And we have to do that on this one. And again, I just put it under there, tie a little knot, knots in the end. And I have another one done. Okay, now I had already finished these simply because, like I said yesterday, it just got way too long of a video. So we'll just do this one, a short little video. And again, you can... This one is the one where I have one flipped towards the back. That's okay. Okay, so now our little pockets can be closed, and we have our little book, but we need to put our elastic on so that it can be closed, like so. And to do that, we need to punch a couple holes in the back side of this. Now, I had a very bad time punching holes in this one, and I ended up having to use way too big of a eyelet. So I have decided to put it, I tried to put it right in the spine, and it just did not go in there very well. So I'm going to put it in the back cover. It will be fine in the back cover, and as long as I don't go over too far. And it should punch a lot easier. So I'm just going to find the middle with my, this is a, let me move my board. This is a centering ruler. It has a 0 in the middle and goes out from each end. So I just find where it's about 2 and a little over 2 3/4 from top to bottom. And here's the 0, so I'll just mark it 1/4 of an inch up here and 1/4 of an inch down there, and I have 2 little marks. And now, unfortunately, this makes a loud noise, but to punch a hole in the middle of something, you have to have a punch that looks like this one. That I got this in the leather department, and for some reason it's got stuff in it. Let's clear it out. There we go. Okay. Now then, I got this in the leather department. It had many different size hole punches, and if I'm using the tiny eyelets, which is what I like to use, this is the only way to get a hole in the center of something. It does not let you put you can't get a hole punch in that far. And I'm again sorry for the noise, but that's what it takes. And once again, it did not punch through very well. So we're going to try it with the good old-fashioned ice pick. And this is what happened on the other book. I had to go to a bigger eyelet because the holes did not punch through well. But let's see if we can, yeah. Okay, we're going to try for the small eyelets this time. I really prefer them, but as you can see, these are not bad. It's just that that hole just was too chewed out to use that kind of an eyelet, the little tiny eyelets. Now, another thing, when I'm setting eyelets, I have found that if I use this ice pick, I can line up the ice pick in the hole and then push in the eyelet, so it makes it go in very nicely. And I think I got it this time where these smaller eyelets will work, which is good. And again, I'm going to line up my ice pick, and then I can push with my thumb, I can push the eyelet into the hole. Part of it is that we have 2 thicknesses of cardstock in there. We have, actually not cardstock, we have a layer of cereal cardboard and a layer of heavy cardstock. Then we have this blue cardstock. So we've got quite a thickness in there. And it's just hard to get it to go through the. So I am just pushing down around that. Now we have this funky little tool that helps to start opening the eyelet by pushing down. It kind of starts the flare. Sometimes I have to tap it a little bit. And then this eyelet tool, it actually pushes the eyelet down and over the paper. It spreads it out, actually spreads out the little pieces of the metal on the eyelet. And last but not least, we take our hammer and go like so. And again, I apologize for the noise, but you have to know what you're doing. You have to hear the noise. And now those actually worked very nicely. So I'm very pleased with that. Let's put these away before they just spill all over everywhere. Okay, our next step is to put in our elastic band that's going to work as our closure. And we just need to go around here, kind of see what we need in the way of length, give ourselves a little bit for tying knots. And then what we want to do is we want to put the ends through the holes like so. Oops, sorry. I put the ends through the eyelets and it comes up to the inside. Okay, and then I'm going to tie a square knot here. Up, around. See, it's a square knot, and I'm sure there are lots of videos out there on how to tie a square knot. I like a square knot because it pulls against itself, and then I usually tie a little overhand granny knot afterwards. If you're really concerned about this coming undone, you can put a drop of glue on it. But then we can pull this, and it finishes our, it closes our book. Now, our little artist trading card decoration should be nice and flat. Yes, it is. And we can attach it to here. We're going to move our elastic band out of the way. And all I did again was to make sure I got some really good coverage of tacky glue. Can you see? Yeah. Okay. And I put it in the upper right hand corner just because I didn't want it right in the middle. I didn't want the elastic band to have to be rubbing across it. I wanted it just a little bit different. If you're worried about that staying on there real well, just put a couple clips on it for right now. Give it a second. Okay, I'll be right back. I forgot something. Okay. What I had wanted to do is I want to make, we're going to just set this one aside and let the design dry, our little decoration for the front cover dry a little bit. And while I do that, I am going to make some little journaling cards. Now I have these, I have a whole package of these, oh, what are these things? They're index cards, and they're a little too big to go in this way. You just don't slide in and out real well because the envelope is just a little bit tight. So I'm going to cut them, a couple of them in half, and just make some little journal cards to put in our envelopes. And I think these are 4x6s, so let's cut one at 3 and see. Yes, they're 4x6s, so we're just going to cut them at 3 inches. Oh, you can't even see that. I'm sorry. I zoomed in so that you could see what I was doing, but yet and the thing of it is that these are pretty boring cards, and we want to have some fun with them as far as journal cards. So what I thought I would do is to ink their edges with some, let's see, those inks are all kind of earthy. These are much more fun. I have Broken China. Let's see what that color looks like. And we're just gonna go around the edges. That looks good. Just give it a little bit of definition, make the journal cards just a little bit of fun. We want to do both sides, because these are going to be plain blank little cards for the pockets. Now I might change color and ink a few in a different blue, or let's change colors and just do a couple more. I have got, oh, here's one that says it's persimmon. Looks kind of orange. There's some orange in our painty envelopes. So I'm going to do that to a whole bunch of these little cards, and that'll sort of finish up our little book. And once again, for today, I have made something with what I have instead of having to go and get something new. It's about sticking to what you've got, figuring out how to use those supplies in a project. This is, I will use up my stuff. Okay, so we're going to make some journal cards. Oh, I forgot to do the back side of this one. So, and I may just do one of each color in that box that looks like they're bright and fun. And I hope you like this project. I am sorry yesterday's video was sort of long and maybe a little bit hard to follow. I hope not. But here's our little book, and we can put our little journal cards in a pocket like so. Sorry, I'm off camera. And there we go, and we can just put this down in here. Close our little book up. And we have two little books now made with the supplies we had on hand, using up the piece of cardstock that I had already painted and wasn't sure what I was going to do with, using up a couple of artist trading coins, using some of my little white envelopes that I have a whole box to try to use up, and making a cute little book that you can put receipts or pictures or note cards. There's all sorts of things that could go in here. I think that I will keep in here also some labels so that I could label this like coupons or receipts, work receipts, that kind of thing. So now then, if you like my videos, please give them a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe to my channel. I hope you enjoyed this. Go have fun, go make some art.